how to track progress effectively. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to get this piece of shit. You're going to throw it out. No, I'm only messing. You don't have to throw it out. But what you're going to not do is base your entire progress on the number that this is going to tell you. Okay? I have a whole video explaining why the scales is so unreliable if you're only using this. So I'm not going to go into it today, but if you go a couple of videos back, the video is called The Scales Never Lies, and it's complete clickbait because actually it does. So the first thing you're going to do is you're not going to base all your progress off what this says. And if you are going to use the scales, you need to know how to use it effectively. You either step on the scales every single day at the same time, preferably first thing in the morning and preferably after you've gone to the toilet. And you're going to see that number go up and down and up and down and up and down, and realize that there's so many things that are going to affect that number. The other option is just get rid of it. Say to yourself that you are going to focus on other markers for even 1 month or 6 weeks before you go and step in it again. And actually just give yourself time to actually get into a fat loss journey instead of already giving yourself roadblocks. So if this is something you are emotionally attached to and you're literally using this as your own method of whether something is working, Slimming World, Weight Watchers, get rid of it. That is a dig. Yes, it's a dig, because only using this is just not an effective way to measure fat loss. So, say we're going to get rid of that. We are going to pick up one of these. We're also going to use that thing that everyone has as a phone and a camera, and we're going to take progress photos. And what's even more important is what everyone owns. It's clothes. You're going to go by if your clothes are starting to fit a little better. And what's more important than any of that is how you're feeling, okay? Are you noticing yourself getting stronger? Are you noticing yourself having more energy? Are you noticing yourself actually enjoying life a little bit more, being happier? All these things that come with actually looking after yourself. These are the most important factors, okay? And actually focusing on these as markers of health, I promise you, if you can focus on these and you are doing the things that you need to do in order to achieve your goals, then I promise you aesthetics is always a byproduct. The fat loss will happen if you are consistently ticking off the boxes. But you can't just be solely relying on these things, because if they don't change week on week, you're going to get extremely demotivated. However, if you do want to use these things effectively, and you are a woman with a menstrual cycle, you need to know how to use this properly. And what I actually say to my group coaching clients, okay? So my one-to-one clients, they check in with me every week. So I see everything every week. So we have a graph every single week where we can actually compare this. However, for my group coaching clients, they only check in once a month. So what I tell them to do, and what I advise you to do if you're not working with me, especially if you're someone who's only ever used the scales, is to actually just give this a go, okay? Instead of just expecting fat loss to be a linear thing like this, I want you to compare where you're at in your cycle of month 1 to where you're at in month 2. So say, for example, I take my measurements on day 5 of my cycle, right, of month 1. And then I take my measurements again the following week, okay, wherever I'm landing then on week 2 of my cycle. And then on week 3 and then week 4, right? I then have a month's worth of data. And maybe the measurements do go down, or maybe they don't. Maybe they go up a little bit at the end of the month just before my period because of water retention and stuff like that, okay? But then what I do is I measure myself on the same day of my cycle of month 2. And I compare that to month 1. And what I like to say here is usually a good time to do this is actually like after you've finished your period, okay? So say I usually would say around day 7 for me. If I did my measurements around day 7, all the bloating and everything is kind of gone away. And then I measure myself on day 7 of month 1. Then I compare that to day 7 of month 2, day 7 of month 3. And then maybe I take my measurements from day 14 of month 1 to day 14 of month 2 to day 14 of month 3. And that's me comparing my weeks of my cycle in relation to each other month on month, which actually gives you a more accurate representation of how you are doing, as opposed to just comparing things week on week. If you are a woman, comparing things week on week can be very demotivating, because you could be ticking off all the boxes, you could be doing absolutely everything you need to do, and maybe your measurements still go up. And if you're not aware of your cycle or aware of the fact that we have water retention at different times of the month, you can get really frustrated and you'll give up on your fat loss journey. You're like, well, fuck this, it's clearly not working, so I'm going to throw in the towel. So what I recommend is you get a piece of paper and maybe write out day 7, 14, 21, 28, or whatever days you want to measure it on, depending on what day of the week that's fallen. But then compare that to the next month and see have your measurements changed. And that way you know if what you're doing is working, because you don't gain and lose weight overnight, okay? It has to be your consistency over time. So with that in mind, you get a measuring tape and you do whatever amount of measurements you want to do. Like, it depends on the client. Some clients, they only measure a few things. I've other clients that measure everything. So if you've ever worked with a trainer before, measurements they'll usually get you to do are your arm, your chest, not always your chest for women, because this is another thing that fluctuates throughout the month, your waist measurement, your tummy, sometimes maybe not. This is going to also vary at different times of the month. Hips, thighs, calves, okay? And I, in particular, like to tell my clients to use centimeters as opposed to inches, because you'll just notice more slight changes, okay? Because obviously centimeters are smaller. Another thing you do is you take your progress photos in as little clothes as possible. You stand facing the camera, you stand at the side, you stand at the back, you take it in the same clothes, under the same light, and from the same angle, and you take that throughout the month, week on week, but you compare it maybe like you do with your measurements. And you actually will get a more accurate representation as to whether things are working. Because everyone wants things to happen overnight, and not realizing that these things take time. And the things you are seeing online, these people who are selling these ab programs and all of this, okay, right? They didn't get to where they are overnight. Some of these people have been weight training for years and years and years, okay? And I have people that start and they want results within a week. And I'm like, whoa, patience. And actually, in order for me to even get as accurate data as I can, I nearly want 2 months. So what I actually would love to get is 2 months worth of data, so I can compare that person's week 1 of month 1 to week 1 of month 2, week 2 of month 1 to week 2 of month 2, and so on and so forth. And the more data you have, the more you can realize whether things are working or not, okay? And not getting disheartened by daily and weekly fluctuations in the scales. Because think of it, up to now, has that ever worked for you if you relied solely on the scales? Because if it hasn't worked up till now, it's not going to work again. So why don't you just try something new, okay? And that's personally how I track my own progress, especially at the moment when I'm not working with a coach. That's how I track my own progress. So hopefully that helps. And what's more important than anything is, can you focus on how you're feeling? Are your clothes fitting better? Do you have more energy? Are you actually just enjoying life a bit better? Have your stress levels decreased? Because to me, all these things are the main reason why we should be doing them. And then aesthetics is a byproduct of that. Let me know anyway how you found this, if you give it a try, and make sure to give me a follow and I will keep these videos coming.